The Hill. Sean Connery. Bold. Exciting. Explosive.
See that hill?
I noticed it as I came in.
We built it special. 2 tons of sand and rock and a lot of labor and sweat.
Stop out! Ice!
Not you, Roberts. You're going to continue dabbling. Roberts?
Bravo!
Sean Connery, as you have never seen him before.
On your feet and you listen!
No, you listen!
The Hill. A story of men pushed to the breaking point and
We're
beyond.
both regulars.
You'd prop up dead men and inspect them if you was ordered to.
Oh, you quit, eh?
I quit the army, and this is what I think of British justice. You're going into the commandant dressed like this, lad? Unless you got a top hat and a bone to put through me nose. Get this maniac out! Out! There!
Any serious illnesses?
Like what?
Any recent incapacities?
Well, I wouldn't brag about it if I had to.
Roberts, in this place it pays to give a plain answer to a simple question.
Then I'm fit, sir.
Yes.
Where are you sending me? To Stud Farm.
What kind of a bloody fool are you trying to make of me, sir?
The complaint against Williams came from Staff Harris.
Harris, what have you told him?
I told him the truth, sir.
The truth? What the hell are you talking about? It's Williams. It's me? Me? Who the hell runs this place? I'm in charge of discipline here, sir. Then you look after your department and I'll look after mine. Don't try and cancel out my orders. I'm running this place. You ain't running this place, Bert. Williams is!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kulturecast. I am your host, Chris Stachiw, at least for the time being. That's what I've been told to say, and I am joined by my good friend. He put the Mike White in Mike White March, or May. This year, I guess, not March, it's May. Your friend and mine, the host of the projection booth, Mike White.
Don't talk back, you different-colored bastard.
Oh my God. Good Lord. I was really expecting you to go, no, you'll muck it up. No, you'll muck it up. Oh, dude.
I would just burn out the whole signal if I did that. If I started screaming like Sean Connery.
Yeah. Screaming Like Sean Connery is a great name for a song. On this episode of the Kulturecast, if you don't know what we're alluding to, we're going to be talking about the first film in Mike White May. I wouldn't say all of the films of Sean Connery because there's not enough time or energy in the world for us to do that. Though I don't know if it's a rather long list, but these are the films of Sean Connery as curated by the projection booth, Mike White. So Mike, I'm curious, before we talk about The Hill, let's talk a little bit about the month. What inspired you to pick the films that you picked?
Well, these are all films that I've been wanting to see. I think I've only seen one of them in the past, which was Name of the Rose, if we're giving spoilers as to what's coming up this month.
Yeah.
Everything else was stuff that I've been wanting to see for the longest time, and I decided to use this opportunity to sit down and talk with my pal Chris and say, let's look at some of these non-Bond films. We've talked a lot about Connery as Bond. Well, let's talk about some of these non-Bonds, and hopefully we're getting some cream of the crop. Like I said, I've not seen them, but I've heard good things about these. So, this first one, The Hill, from Sidney Lumet, I've heard that it was great, and I need more Sidney Lumet in my life because what I've seen of his. Usually, I don't think I saw that one with Vin Diesel that he did towards the end of his career, but I've seen a lot of Lumet's and I've enjoyed every single one that I have seen so far. So yeah, very excited for these.
So like Mike mentioned, on this episode, we're talking about The Hill. On the next episode, we're talking about the Anderson tapes. After that, we're doing The Offense. Then, like Mike has already mentioned, The Name of the Rose, which, yes, we have covered in the past, but we'll be covering it again like almost a decade later. And then to round out the month, we'll be talking about Wrong is Right. So yeah, not a single Bond title. The one I'm most disappointed by, and maybe I can Shanghai you to do a bonus episode before the end of the month. Little League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, my dude. Mike's already left. I have to do this podcast by myself now. Mike left because I even brought it up. I saw that thing in theaters, man.
I did too. Yeah.
So I would say that I like yourself, I have not seen any of these films, but looking into them in kind of a cursory level ahead of time, they all seem, like you said, good examples of Sean Connery as an actor outside of the mainstream things that he's known for, namely, well, that's what I was going to say before we get into this movie specifically. In your perception of things as a film watcher, as a movie podcaster, as someone who's appreciated film your entire life like I have, what is the most popular thing Sean Connery is in? It's James Bond, right?
It's gotta be. Yeah. I mean, he was
broadly, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, and specifically Never Say Never Again. So
totally. You Only Live Twice when he's in Yellowface. For me, that's Sean Connery.
Yeah, I mean, other than Zardoz, I don't.
It's always a red outfit for me in that one.
Oh God, I love that movie. It's so off, but I just I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, even going back to his, it's interesting. His top 4 on IMDb. Number 1 is Dr. No. Number 2 is The Untouchables. Number 3 is The Rock, and number 4 is The Name of the Rose.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Indiana Jones is not on there, huh?
No, that might be one of his more popular things, or even like, what was it? You're the Man Now, Dog? No, not Finding Forrester.
YTMND, man. Mike White. Good Lord, man. There were a couple people that heard that and popped for that real hard.
I was a big fan of that site.
Me too. The dramatic reading of things, or the Batman doing the YTMND is man. Oof. If you don't know,
I used to make some of those.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
God. Yeah.
So good. You're the man now, dog. Yeah, that for me is that's a Sean Conneryism that he's known for. I would say for me, like, I understand the James Bond of it all, but, and I mean this genuinely, for me, I think of Sean Connery as as Indiana Jones's dad, because I watched that a lot more as a kid than I did any of those Connery Bonds. I was not a huge fan of the Connery Bonds as a kid because, and I think this is understandable for someone who's like in their early, like young adulthood or childhood, like those movies are kind of boring. They're not the most exciting or entertaining comparatively to like A Live and Let Die, or the movie that I would have seen initially, GoldenEye. Like, Dr. No is no Golden. And so I always think of Sean Connery as Indiana Jones's dad. Like,
I can see there being a whole generation of people that's their biggest thing.
And I think that third Indiana Jones movie is way better than it has any right to be because of Sean Connery and Harrison Ford's chemistry.
Yeah, I'm still not a big fan of that movie.
Lead in that movie, you know what I mean?
No.
Like, they don't really need one because they're so good. I get it. I don't think it's that great of an Indiana Jones movie, but in fucking retrospect.
Oh yeah, compared to what we got after that.
Come on, man. Like, I know some people may not think it's great, but retroactively reappreciating it might be a better way of looking at it, because 4 and 5 shit the bed so hard.
Oof, yeah.
But I mean, I get the James Bond of it all. But yeah, for me, Sean Connery, really like Indiana Jones's dad. And then I would say probably then James Bond. And I did see The Rock growing up. So like that might be my third point of reference.
Yeah, for me, I mean, he was always a presence. Growing up, he was just always there. And I obviously was not old enough to have experienced him as Bond in the theater other than Never Say Never Again. I mostly remember him from things like, I saw The Untouchables when I was way too young to see The Untouchables. I remember seeing...
I didn't see it until 2 years ago with you and Father Malone. Like, that's why I can't even use that as an example.
I love that movie. It's a great movie. When it comes to... really, we'll talk about this on the Anderson Tapes episode. I remember that movie being on television a lot, so I was pretty exposed to him that way. But then, he was a presence. When I was working at the movie theater, I remember Medicine Man coming out. Like you said, Indiana Jones 3. Even things like Just Cause, or as I would like to say, Just Cause. And yeah, The Rock, and what was the one with him and Catherine Zeta-Jones?
I was gonna say Entrapment.
Is that right? I mostly just remember her in that movie, but I do remember his kind of mottled skin that he had at that point in his life.
And, to be fair, I would say that, maybe the measuring stick and the thing that I would insert into this conversation, not unseriously, is Daryl Hammond's impersonation of Sean Connery on Celebrity Jeopardy.
Oh, yeah.
He was so ubiquitous that Daryl Hammond could do that imitation. And that's that is not Sean Connery. That is just Daryl Hammond doing a very broad stereotype of him, like a caricature impersonation. But it is one of the things I think of when I think of Sean Connery, like genuine.
Oh, absolutely.
And it has nothing to do with Sean Connery. Sean Connery is kind of a prickly individual. I mean, he talks about beating his wife multiple times, and he doesn't talk about
every woman should be slapped sometimes.
Yeah, and there's no repentance for it.
No.
But, I never perceived him to be the outright asshole the way Daryl Hammond characterizes him, but it's very funny.
Oh, God, it's hilarious. I forgot I grew up with him really watching Highlander, even watching sort of The Valiant. I remember him showing up in that. And then Time Bandits. He was, Agamemnon in Time Bandits, and he was like the surrogate father to Kevin, the main character. And he was like, when you meet him, you're just like, yeah, he should be your dad. Like, stick with this guy. He really knows what's going on. He treats Kevin nicer than his parents, nicer than anybody. And it's like kind of a real missed opportunity when they, steal him away and take him back through time again. It's like, oh no, he was like the best father figure that you had. So yeah, I definitely had a real affection for him growing up. And then since then, it's like, it's funny because I'm not picking movies that I love, like the Man Who Would Be King, The Great Train Robbery, Outland. Like, he was knocking it out of the park for me anyway, at least in the 70s.
Well, and that's the thing for me as someone who's in my mid 30s, because you and I are only separated in, I would say, I guess you could be my dad in age wise. You'd be like a younger, but I think you and I are closer in age, like an older brother, younger brother situation. So like, I was never able to see those movies that you saw because we're just apart in age enough. I remember seeing the VHS for Outland at my grandparents' house where I watched a lot of my movies growing up, and it had a really large impression on my formative years. I mean, my dad wrote it in my birthday card this year. He wrote the birthday card had a VHS tape on it because I used to go with my grandfather all the time to Blockbuster, and we would just come back with all kinds of stuff, to the point where we came back with movies that got turned off 5 to 10 minutes in, like Mallrats. But the Connery that I honestly remember now, just taking a glance at his list of the movies that I could have seen in my childhood, Dragonheart, which I do remember seeing as a kid, where he just does the voice of the dragon.
Yeah.
And then the other one, and you will laugh, and I am being dead fucking serious when I say this, I watched The Avengers a lot growing up.
Okay. Yeah.
On VHS and DVD. I remember that's the Sean Connery plays the villain who can control the weather.
The Winter. Yes.
Yeah. Winter with a Y.
Yes.
And it's Ray Fiennes and it's Uma Thurman, right?
Uma Thurman, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I remember them all.
Is Eddie Izzard in that movie?
I think you're right, yeah. I remember them all dressed as teddy bears, and I wondered which came first, the Aphex Twin video where they're all dressed like teddy bears, or that.
I think Patrick McNee is in there, like.
Oh yeah, doing a little fan service there.
Yeah. Jim Broadbent is in there as well. Like, I watched that movie a lot. I haven't seen it in a really long time. Honestly, I mean, I was joking about League of Extraordinary Gentlemen as like a bonus episode, but I would honestly might just do an Avengers episode by myself because I have not seen that movie since I was a kid. I saw that a lot as well growing up.
I think I rented that on VHS. Was that VHS or would that have been DVD?
It would have been right at the cusp. It was 98, which is like what, Matrix is 99?
Yeah.
Here's the Matrix for you. This is for your birthday.
Yeah.
So all of this to say, I would say, and to segue, I think, easily into talking about The Hill, the thing that always surprises me about Sean Connery versus, and just to use Bond as the segue, he's the only actor to play Bond to win an Oscar.
Yes.
for a movie, like you said, that is really good. I didn't see it until much more recently with The Untouchables, which is where he won for Best Supporting Actor. But Sean Connery, I think, is maybe, and I mean, this maybe not controversial anymore, but he's the only actor with a capital A that's played James Bond. Because he's a real actor, I would say. Yeah. Connery is. He's a working man's actor. He's a toned down Richard Harris. He's a toned down Oliver Reed for me, because you can see that in him as a person, especially with like The Women Deserve a Good Slap, and just kind of, he was prickly, but he is a working man, blue collar guy turned into, and has real acting chops. And again, like, I think that's interesting because it kind of gets lost in the conversation about James Bond. I think only Connery could have really brought the gravitas necessary to elevate Bond into something worth like getting the hooks into pop culture, because Connery is such a convincing everyman. Even though Bond is not the everyman, Connery plays the everyman so well that you want the everyman to be James Bond, because we are in turn the everyman. And Daniel Craig just doesn't ever feel like that. And with something like The Hill, I get to see what I would perceive to be, at least as a film watcher and movie podcaster, the first film I've ever seen where I'm like, holy shit, Sean Connery, the guy was just an immensely talented actor naturally. It doesn't feel at all like a put on.
No, the performance he gives in this is remarkable. And it all adds up for me when it comes to this film. And you have such a amazing cast in this. It was so nice seeing, young Ossie Davis in this. I've really, over the last few years, have really started to fall in love with Harry Andrews. He shows up in some interesting places. We just watched Entertaining Mr. Sloan a few months ago for the projection booth, and he is so good in that one. And yeah, just like everybody is firing on all cylinders. Great seeing Roy Kinnear show up in this, and almost the first time I see him, I'm just like, is that Veruca Salt's dad? Like, is that really him? And sure enough, yeah, we just watched him in it wasn't the 7% Solution. I think it might have been, was it Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother? I don't remember. He was a henchman in one of those.
It is
Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother. Okay. He was really good in that. Very, very funny. And this one, he's so great. He's just so venal and just such a little shit. And you just want to, box his ears most of the time. I really feel like all of this goes together so well. I was very shocked to read that there was a version that we probably should have watched that was aired on TNT. I think it was back in the late 80s, a colorized version of this film, because I really think that's what was missing from this movie is, the lush color photography.
Yeah, totally. I would go as far as to say one of the things about this film that I really love is that it is a stage play.
It totally is.
It's a stage play. Like, this is a 100% stage play. You need 4 settings to get this done. This would be a very economical stage play. I'm actually surprised nobody has done this recently in any sort of extended form. Maybe we should. I don't know. Like, it's one of these things where when I was watching this, I was like, this feels so insanely prescient and topical for the way things are now and the kinds of people in the world that we are dealing with. But for me, if I were to watch a colorized version of this movie, it would take away from the timeless nature of it.
Oh,
there is
absolutely.
Something so timeless about black and white, and I don't need to see the lush cinematography in a film like this, because the starkness of the environment and the starkness of the lighting and just the look of everything helps add to the kind of overwhelmingly cynical and I think, I don't know, I wouldn't say disturbing, but, disturbing nature of what the film is kind of getting at. Yeah, I mean, again, like, everybody's going to come in at a different level on some of this, but I think, ultimately, I think it helps just the stark contrast of the lighting and the black and white helps just further be more unsettling, more off-putting, and I think it works in the film's favor.
It's interesting to look at the cinematographer's body of work. Reflections in a Golden Eye has some similarities with this. I think that there was a version of that had like this yellow sheen on it. but yeah, like looking at like, he did Fiddler on the Roof, he did Sleuth, he did the Macintosh Man, he did Scrooge, he did The Man with the Golden Gun. So you're one of the
last thing was also Dark Crystal. So he's had a very broad body of work.
Yeah, he worked with Lumet a few times. I think didn't Lumet actually do The Wiz? I'm pretty sure. So he worked with him on that as well.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and then he did The Man Who Would Be King, who would, we were just talking about that. So yeah, great cinematography. I love just how stark this is. All of the shots of the sky where it just looks like the sky is just oppressive. I mean, so much of this movie is oppressive, especially when it comes to the hill. I love that we start with the movie kind of already in progress in media res with the guy who's trying to make it up the hill and then him falling down the rest of the way. And it's just like, okay, boom, we're into it. Let's get going here. We'll save the opening credits for a little bit, but we're going to start with this right now.
Well, and I mean, I love, like you said, the fact that the movie is just there's no like, oh, and that's what this is, and that's what we're just right here, like we're right there in it, and I think it helps add to a level of disorientation with the audience, because that's the other thing. Like, it takes a while not to figure out what's going on here, but to understand exactly what the stakes of what is going on here are, because it's not made eminently clear once we, kind of pick up, like you said, in media res with things, what the fuck is actually going on. Like, it takes a second to understand, like, okay, this is a place for not deserters per se, but where you take people in the military that are not living up to the rules and regulations as they're written down, and we put them in the middle of the desert. Okay. Like, yeah. It almost doesn't make any sense until we understand, like, the point that there's a further point to why this is the way that it is and the expectations. And I mean, at one point in the movie, one of the characters, I forget which one, says, like, this place is as much for us as it is for the guards. The guards are here too. They're stuck here. Like, these guards are the complete fucks of their own, like, stripe of things. And it's very interesting that, like, even when the movie doesn't acknowledge that immediately, but just like you said, the oppressive nature of where the film is set gets that point across more or less immediately.
Well, it's pretty early in the movie that they're like talking about the commandant of the whole camp. And, we find out very quickly that Harry Andrews, even though he acts like he's in charge, is not the man in charge.
Right.
It's cut to the CO with this prostitute, obviously outside of the camp, probably like downtown Cairo kind of thing. And it's like, all right, yeah, we're finding out about this. And yeah, this guy, the Harry Andrews character, is just such a little tyrant. And we've seen this type of character in films before. There was a lot of feel for me watching this of a film that would come, I think, 2 years later. I kept thinking of Cool Hand Luke. And just this whole idea of the guy who comes into this prison camp and who, I don't want to say he bucks authority, because authority just immediately is like, he's special. We need to tear this motherfucker down. We need to make an example of this guy. And then it's interesting that they try to break him, but they're not going to. And they end up breaking the wrong person. But yeah, they're just like, oh, he thinks he's special. We're going to tear this motherfucker down, whether it's even his fellow prisoners, like the one guy who is just such a hard ass and thinks that he knows best about everything. And it's like, no, you don't know what time it is. And them, like us, very smart move to have these 5 new prisoners coming in, because we learn the ropes with them. We learn how this camp works. We saw the guy falling down the hill earlier. We see the 2 guys who are getting out, and it seems like they've got some okay camaraderie with the Harry Andrews guy, but seeing these 5 new prisoners and just the way they are going right after Ossie Davis. I mean, it's this whole idea of, if you're different, if you're special at all, we're going to pound you down into the ground. Or they're going to pick on Roy Kinnear because he's fat. They're going to pick on Ossie Davis because he's black. They're going to pick on the one guy who's married, but keep insinuating that he's gay. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but I guess they just like spot weakness. Like, he loves his wife. That's why he got into trouble, was because of what was that whole thing? He was had his wife's letters and stuff. Yeah, it's like, all right, yeah, not a really horrible crime, but he gets it the worst of all of them.
It's it's very telling to me. And I think it's also very kind of important to the narrative, like you said, that the audience, the viewer, gets to experience how oppressive this world is firsthand through the eyes of those characters. Because I'm not saying it wouldn't have worked otherwise, but I think what works about it for me is that there are these moments where we get to see things like through the eyes of the characters. I mean, there's a point where one of the characters has a gas mask put on and he's forced to run up the titular hill. And we see that from the first person view. And it's out of control. I mean, it's completely insane. But it helps put you as the audience in a place where there is, I think, an immense amount of sympathy and empathy for the main characters and the understandable lack of that for the people in charge, because the people in charge flaunt how terrible they are, but refuse to own up to it when presented with the evidence of their wrongdoing. Does that sound like anything else?
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, they're just
The Hill.
any excuse.
How ironic of a fucking name for a film.
Yes, there is a lot of irony there. Yeah. I mentioned Cool Hand Luke. I'm trying to remember the other film that this was really reminding me of, which I think was an earlier one. It'll come to me eventually, but it's just like, yeah, like to see these relationships. I mean, another later one, I kept thinking of the boot camp scene in Starship Troopers. You know, just that whole like the yelling at people and chasing after them and like beating on them and all this kind of stuff. And there, it's just like, I mean, it's Verhoeven, so he's presenting it as comedy, but then when you look at it, you're just like, this is really fucking horrible. I mean, when Zim throws the knife and it goes right into Jake Busey's hand, it's just like, oh my God, like this guy is fucking crazy. I could see Harry Andrews doing the same thing if he could actually throw a knife.
Well, and like you said, the kind of over the top nature of the people in charge. I mean, in that film, it's the kind of COs. In this film, they're not COs per se, but they act like COs. Like that's because this is military, because this is, again, a military prison run by military commanders. We have this, like, there's a level of just like entitled assholery that you wouldn't necessarily get otherwise with another kind of narrative. I mean, Sidney Lumet, I think what's interesting is, 12 Angry Men, obviously, and this, I feel like, are very of a piece with one another. And in a way that it doesn't feel forced to make that connection. I think for me, what's interesting is it's tackling a similar thing, injustices within the system. I think 12 Angry Men is a little bit more hopeful than this movie is.
Yeah.
Me personally. But I think there's a level of like, I think there's a level in that here. I just don't think, I think that's not really the point of what Ray Rigby is trying to get across.
Yeah, first off, so I don't remember who I was talking with, but I said Sidney Lumet's name the way that you just said it, Lumet, because that's how it looks, right? Mm-hmm. Being a man of the world squire, you see that and you're just like, yeah, Lumet. I got corrected hardcore by whoever it was just like, no, it's Lumet. I was just like, holy cow.
Was it by the ghost of Sidney Lumet?
It was somebody else. I think it was somebody that worked with him. So I was just like, okay, my bad. So it wasn't Alan Barron, but they came on like a ton of bricks. So I remember what the other movie was that it reminds me of, which is Paths of Glory, which is another thing where it's just like, I guess it's because of the hill. And in that movie, they were always talking about the ant hill. And in that, it's the three prisoners, that you've got with, Timothy Carey and Kirk Douglas, and who's Joe, the guy who is the bartender in The Shining, and he was also the guy who created the replicants in Blade Runner. But like those three, and then just all of the petty dictatorshipness of George McCready in that film. That, yeah, it's just this. We've seen this kind of stuff before, where it's just like these little guys who have a little bit of power, and they're just going to make everybody's lives miserable. Very, very Stephen Miller.
I was gonna say very. Who's the guy from Ice that they ran out of ice?
Oh yeah, I can't remember that dude's name. And he was that
Gino, but that was the other guy.
Yeah.
Was the other guy that got ran out of things.
He was the guy who looked like he was drawn by John Kay from Ren and Stimpy.
He looks like, I wouldn't say short Hitler, but maybe short Goebbels.
Yeah, more of a short Goebbels. Yeah.
Short Goebbels.
I don't even know how tall Goebbels was, but yeah.
How tall was he?
Mm-hmm.
I love the like you said, give a little man a little bit of power and he'll try to act like a big man. Like this is a intro, not an introspection, but an inspection, a condemnation of that kind of sentiment. And, yes, this is a film that's set in the military, but you could transpose this to any, anything, any sort of setting where there's a hierarchical expectation within it. You give one person any modicum of power and some people will just go completely apeshit.
Yeah, I was reminded of the Stanford prison experiment while I was watching this. Just that whole idea of like, okay, you tell these people they're guards, you tell these people they're prisoners, and watch how these people that are guards just lose their shit and start to revel in their power.
Right. It takes a lot of restraint and withholding oneself emotionally to not become involved in that, which is why finding people to do those jobs well is really hard.
Oh, yeah.
Because most people that want to have those kinds of jobs do get off on telling other people what to do and treating them like garbage.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there are so many times where it's just like, why did you become a cop? Is it because you want to protect and serve, or is it because you want to lord stuff over people?
Right. And this movie is a really good, I would say, once again, examination of what that looks like in a military setting and the level to which people will go to treat people poorly.
Oh, yeah.
I think about, just one thing in specific, them measuring out the food for no reason, them forcing them to like run in place with their food for no reason. Sean Connery says it, I would say kind of in the climax of the film. It's just, like, what are all these rules and regulations good for if none of it really matters? And it's all just it's all in the service of just like making people feel awful. Like, what is the point? And it's just,
well, I have to break these people down so that I can build them back up again.
Yeah. It's like, break them down to what, for what, and why?
Right. It just all these little petty things, just like, oh, sorry, we made you run up and down the hill a few extra times, Sean Connery. So you know what? You don't get to eat because we didn't let you go out with the rest of the men who are spilling their food everywhere because they have to run in place and because they have to run down these steps to, take their food back to their place to eat. I'm surprised there's not a mess hall here that they eat in their cells. But yeah, to your point about this feeling very much like a stage play, here's your set. We're going to do most of this stuff in this one location. I mean, that's, I think, what, 80%, maybe 70% of the film takes place in that cell, and the rest of it is mostly outside and just under that blistering heat. And even though this is black and white, you can just feel the heat coming off of this thing, especially seeing all of the sweat. Like the first time Connery takes off his hat, and I was so curious because I'm like, okay, what's his hair going to look like in this movie? When he takes off his hat, just drenched in sweat, and you just see it on all of these men's faces, except oddly enough, Ossie Davis doesn't seem to sweat very much at all.
Can I just say how much I love Ossie Davis in this movie?
He's so good. He is so good in this.
Yeah. I mean, everybody is great in this, really. I mean, from the asshole guards in charge to the other asshole prisoners that are in there with Connery. But, I mean, Ossie Davis, for me, is it's him and Connery 1A, 1B, and then probably Harry Andrews 1C of like the best parts of this movie. Ossie Davis is just so good as an actor, and kind of feel bad because, and you're going to laugh, the only other thing I think I've seen him in, I've seen things he's directed, obviously, thanks to you. The only other thing I've seen him in is as Black JFK in Bubba Hotep.
Bubba Hotep, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm so glad that he got that role because he was so fucking good in that movie.
Oh, God. It's like him and, I mean, for someone to upstage Bruce Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
as Bruce Campbell's playing Elvis in a role that I would say Bruce Campbell is like made to play. For him to upstage Bruce Campbell, yeah, it's pretty impressive. Ossie Davis he's probably the best part of Bubba Hope. A movie that I think kind of is good, but isn't. I think I've seen it enough times now where I'm like, I have my problems with this movie, namely like the third act.
Yeah. Still waiting for
premise is
Bubba
fun.
Nosferatu. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still waiting for that sequel, huh? Jeez.
Yeah. I think I grew up mostly with him being in Do the Right Thing. That him as the mayor in that one. But yeah, I know I've seen him in just a ton of other films, maybe even like Avenging Angel. He was in one of the Angel movies. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those, but
I have.
Yeah, and then he was, like you said, behind the camera with a lot of movies that, are kind of my favorite things. So, did he do both the Cotton Comes to Harlem films or just the one? I think just the one.
He did one, and then he also did Gordon's War.
Right. And I think he did Black Girl. So,
and Coffee's Harvest. I mean, he did those 4 movies, 70, 72, 73, and 73. He did those 4 just like bang, 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 bang. So.
Bing, 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 bing.
Bing, 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 bye, bye. Yeah. Can you imagine showing this movie now? Like, the thing that's really funny about this movie is the prescient nature of the way it shows people in power abusing power. But then, look, people abusing power is nothing.
No. My high school teacher that I loved the most, Mr. Menard, he used to always say, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it's just like, yeah, these guys have no checks and balances. Dad's away. Dad is literally out fucking around, like with prostitutes. More power to him, but he's just like, yeah, all right. And then you've got Harry Andrews just like jockeying for that job. So he's going to do whatever he can to prove what a big man he is. Oh, what a big man you are. Let me buy you a pack of gum and teach you how to chew it.
Yeah. No, and that for me, I think about the idea of, we have all these like little men in charge because the big man is away. It reminds me a little bit of RoboCop in a way. Ronnie Cox character who is, he's the one seemingly in control of things and pushing the way things are. Well, the old man, as it were, is just away at the switch, and when we look at something like this and we see all these little men in charge because the daddy is away, it's such an interesting play on things, because with Connery's character refusing to back down, that it's going to come to blows eventually, and that nothing good can come of this for anybody involved, really. But the thing that is so funny is we have these little men who are so big until they're confronted with their own misdeeds, and then they just refuse to own up to it. That's the part that I think really is the topical part here. Because if you do bad shit and you don't own up to it and you get caught doing it, you should just fucking admit it and deal with the consequences of your fucking actions.
Yeah, but they're not
going to. The rest of us do, you know?
They're going to look for any excuse, including, this guy happened to die. Well, didn't you say that he was okay for this stuff? Right. Yeah, let's do that. Let's omit all the torture and let's just talk about, how it was your fault, doctor. This is really, at the end of the day, it's a prison movie. Right. So you've got a lot of the tropes that we see in prison films, this whole idea of the doctor being the only one who has any sort of moral center. And is he going to say and do the right thing, or is he not going to say and do the right thing? And there's always that eternal struggle, and it seems like most of the time in prison films, it's like, okay, where's the doctor at? What's that compass for us? Is he in the hip pocket of the warden, or is he not? Right. I'm surprised there wasn't a doctor. Maybe there was. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but there was no doctor character that I remember in Shawshank. But you're dealing with a whole Clancy Brown, both in Shawshank and Starship Troopers. You're dealing with like a whole mountain of Clancy Browns when it comes to this.
Would you say it's a hill?
It could be a hill of Clancy Browns, which is not a hill I'm going to die on.
That's right.
Yeah. I love that there's no music in this film, or if there is, it's very minimal. I don't remember one beat of music. I just remember the ever-present noise of these guys just being drilled over and over and over again. It's just constant in the background. You just constantly hear these drill sergeants just screaming and yelling at these guys. And all you see in the yard are all of these guys just standing in place, doing calisthenics, running here, running there. Like every once in a while, I see like the guy who's got a blackboard, who's kind of teaching them things. But for the most part, it's just physical activity all the time. And that's all you hear is these guys just screaming and carrying on.
And to what end?
Right.
Like it's one of those things where when you think about people that act poorly or act badly, it's like, you could just be normal. You could just stop. You could just make things not be this way because you're choosing to make things this way as it is. I mean, the Harry Andrews character, like, why is he doing? I mean, we know why he's doing this. I mean, I'm not asking like, why is he doing this? But like at the core of it, why don't you just be? Why do you feel the need to be constantly on and refuse to be off in any capacity? And it's like, dude, you almost want to just like grab him by his shoulders and be like, chill the fuck out. Like, what is the point of running these guys ragged? They're already locked up. Like, these guys are being treated worse than prisoners are. It is a prison movie, like you said, but shit, in prison movies, they're not being done any of this. This is like next level.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't know how Rajnikanth would run his prison in Jailer, but I think he has a much more of a better relationship with his men.
Invoking them. Where's the Bollywood remake of The Hill? Man,
don't put it past them.
Dancing up and down the hill, singing at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the hill for a minute. The hill, the actual through your lens,
titular hill.
The titular hill. Through your lens, what is your perception of the meaning of the hill or the symbolism of the hill?
I mean, for me, kind of going back to Paths of Glory, the thing that they're trying to capture in that movie is a thing that they call the anthill. And it's this whole, like, if we go up this hill, we're going to get slaughtered. And for me, this is just this, it also kind of going back to the whole idea of Cool Hand Luke, that whole sequence of what's my dirt doing in boss so-and-so's hole? And then why is all this here? Like, just keep opening up holes and filling them with dirt, and then dig another hole and then fill that one with dirt. I mean, this is just this exercise in futility to have these guys just running up and down this hill all day long. I mean, it's a torture device for me. It's just them going up and down. And then I think the actual way that the hill looks with all those white stones on the side. Yes, I know they're stones, but it might as well be skulls.
Right.
Yeah. The one really telling moment for me is when you get the 3 guards coming up over the hill, and it's just like, you guys are having too much fun. You're not being drilled properly. So here we come, and we're going to set your minds right, boys.
For me, it exemplifies the ultimate Sisyphean task.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, Sean Connery's character is the one who runs up and down it with the most speed and ferocity, which is why they try to break him the hardest.
Yeah.
Because anyone who's physically fit to the level of Connery's physical fitness in this film can get up and down the hill easily. But it's that juxtaposition of Connery with an old guy, a fat guy, a guy who, like you said, is being painted as like effeminate or more in touch with his feelings and emotions, which, as we all know, is gay.
100%. Yeah.
The gayest of gay. And then, we have a character who's black, which is, for this film at this time, that's a difference enough, right? Like,
right.
They drop the N-bomb several times in this movie. And I think, it's used to rather dramatic effect. I mean, this is, Quentin Tarantino could take a couple notes as to how to use that word to give it some emphasis without forcing it into every other fucking sentence in every scene. Like, it's used here in a way that really emphasizes how awful the situation is for anyone that isn't just a physically fit, white looking, presenting man like the guards. Because that's the other thing. All the guards look, even though we see them out of their uniforms several times. I mean, we see Williams running up and down that hill or attempting to. I mean, he can't even do it. And he's not even in his fucking outfit, and he can't do it. Like, and he
doesn't have his kid on his back.
Yeah. it's interesting that the expectation is, it's like the Hitler Youth, right? Like blonde haired, blue eyes, physically fit. Like, there's not, they don't have any of the I don't know, say any of that in this movie, but they kind of do when they address Ossie Davis's character.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also making this set during World War II and having Ossie Davis be like, I'm a subject of the king, just like you are. I'm a British subject.
Right.
And they just basically laugh at him. They're just like, oh, look at this black bastard trying to say that he's British just like us. What a piece of shit. And this being released in 65? I mean, this is the I can't say it's the end of colonialism, but there's a lot of shit going on in the world right now around colonialism in 65. I mean, this is, all the Congo crisis is still going on. So many problems are happening in Africa with former colonial powers, either on purpose leaving or being forced to leave their colonies, either in Africa, South America. Like, there's a major sea change happening here. So it really makes a big difference with him being from the West Indies and saying, I'm a citizen just like you are, and them just not taking him seriously.
Right. Which is crazy because they're all in. It's again, like, look at all, like, the rats are all pointing at the one rat with mange. Like, you're all rats in a fucking rat, like in a rat bucket together. Like, there's no special anything about anybody. This is like, for all intents and purposes, they're all in the same boat together. Like, there should be no, like, I don't know, there should be no difference between any of them, but the guards single them out one by one because that seemingly is the guard's only job. Exactly.
Well, I love the part where Ossie Davis is just like, what do you expect me to, have a bone in my nose? Like this is how you think we dress anyway. And he just strips off all of his clothes. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Chef from Apocalypse Now after the tiger incident. I think he strips himself too after that. And, madness is a major part of this thing with the one character who loses his shit, and like just, you've got Roy Kinnear starting to give some orders, and you see just how brain dead the one guy is, the quote unquote effeminate guy is, and he's just like, okay, he's so trained to listen to orders. Even Roy Kinnear just saying bullshit out loud, he starts following those orders, and they just get the biggest hoot out of it. I mean, it's one of the biggest tragedies that I can think of, is just these guys just hooting and hollering, watching this guy who's basically lost his mind at this point, and they just think it's a joke. And what do you know? Next thing you know, he keels over dead. And that becomes it. I can't say it's the inciting incident, but I mean, that's like the big change of the film is after he dies, it's just like, well, fuck, that's a real thing. A man just lost his life in the quote unquote care of these sadistic guards. And then it's all about, well, shit, now we got to cover our tracks.
I was gonna say, with the Sean Connery of it all, we never see Connery in that scene.
No, he's there though, right?
He is there because he runs up to him. He's the one who takes Stevens's pulse to see that he's dead.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I don't remember seeing him egging him on.
No, I don't either. Yeah, you don't get a close up of him laughing at that point.
No, it's really, I mean, and I think, for me, Roy Kinnear is like the worst of the people there. Like, he's obviously, the McGrath character is almost guard adjacent. He's trying to be a hard ass, but by the end of the film, even he realizes, like, they don't give a fuck about you, even if you're trying to present yourself as someone who understands what they did was wrong, and they're having to be like, sorry, and show that they understand what they did. Like, even they don't fucking care about you, dude. Like, and I love that he realizes that by the end of the movie. But man, Roy Kinnear, I think, plays one of the most weaselly, snivelly shithead characters I've seen in a film in a very long time.
He does such a great job with it. For all of the hatred I have for Harry Andrews and the guards, Kinnear just is like, oh, you piece of shit. You are just the worst. And it's not to the point where I laugh at him when he's just like, I'm fat, I can't do this. But I'm just like, okay, kind of reminds me of Private Pile from Full Metal Jacket, where it's just like, oh, we see weakness in this guy. He's heavy, so we're going to go right after him. We're going to check his Foot Locker for donuts, those kind of things. But I mean, it's funny because he's kind of a mix of the two characters. It's kind of the Roy Kinnear build, and I know he was not fat very much at all in Full Metal Jacket. I mean, D'Onofrio's just a little heavy in that, but he's heavier than the rest of the people in the squad. But then the whole thing, when the sergeant comes up to him, when I'm just looking right now at R. Lee Ermey. When R. Lee Ermey comes up to him and he says, because his name is Lawrence, he's like, "What, Lawrence of Arabia? Are you a Peter Puffer?" And he just starts like questioning his sexuality, and it's like, all right, so he's being labeled with that or painted with that same brush. And again, you are the outsider. We don't want you, and he becomes the object of derision for the entire squad. He's the guy that they code red.
And again, I to your point about kind of the characters and what they're doing and how they're being portrayed and the way that they're being taken advantage of because of their weaknesses. I do love that, because we only have one character who externally presents as someone that they can gang up on, all the other ones, they have to have a varying degree or variety of things that are, I would say, believable as reasons to be, kind of antagonized further. But I do love that we then get the Sean Connery, who is just the one that they cannot break no matter how hard they try.
Exactly.
And that for me, I think it's, and I don't know if you would agree, like that characterization is a slippery slope to go down, because it almost, if you do not hit that characterization correctly, that character will be very flat. And I don't find his character to be flat at all in this movie, but it could have been. It really could have been, because he's expected to be like, yes, we're experiencing this through the eyes of all the characters, but ultimately we are experiencing it through the eyes of Sean Connery's character. And because that's the case, it almost might have led to an under-characterization of his character, but I don't think that's here. I think he actually has a fair amount of kind of autonomy as a character, and I think Sean Connery takes the role some very interesting places.
Yeah. Well, his position in whatever unit or whatever, he is set apart because of him being in a more superior place. He's probably the highest ranking of all these guys. He might even rank higher than these guards. I'm not sure. He might even rank higher than Harry Andrews. I don't know, but it's and I kind of sometimes wish I knew the military ranks a little bit more. And I know that even in the trivia, there's like, this person's from this type of unit, this person's from this type of unit. That still doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me. But yeah, like he's put into this position of being almost like a father figure to them when they, when the one guy is starting to really lose his shit, he like comes to Connery and it's just like, this is going on. And he's starting to break down in front of Connery. And then, you get those great close-ups of Connery's face. I mean, this movie, and that's the one thing I like about Lumet so much, is that he knows the power of the close-up. There are some just amazing close-ups in 12 Angry Men. I think of the old man, and I mean, that whole movie is just faces. It's like you've got these 12 guys around this table. How are you going to make this thing interesting for an hour and a half? He sure knows how to do it, and he knows how to use a moving camera. He knows when to I have the still camera as well, but there's a lot of camera moves in these little spaces, and they do a really good job of knowing when to break from that and cut to a close up. And you've got these great faces with all of these actors. I mean, Harry Andrews' face, I love that big chin he's got and everything.
Oh my God, yeah.
But those amazing close-ups of Connery, and Connery is just so goddamn handsome in this movie.
He is. That, I'm not going to say Connery wasn't when he got older, but
no, he was still a very handsome man. But young Connery
with the hair, like and the mustache and he is such a good looking guy. Like, it's one of those things where you look at him and you're like, man, you don't belong in this setting just based on the look of it alone. But then when he opens his mouth and you hear him talk, it's like, no, he totally does. Like he looks. His look is one thing, but his like presence is another. The gruffness that he has, the kind of, I don't know, unyielding, right, like righteous indignation that he has, like, because it is righteous indignation.
Oh yeah,
it comes through because Connery has such, like you said, such a good face, just such a good face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the death of the one soldier happens just about at the midpoint of the movie, and then it becomes, like I said, that whole, okay, how are we going to cover this up? Who are we going to put the blame on? That they have to go to that setting outside of the camp where you have that woman belly dancing, and then it's like, oh hey, Commandant, somebody died at the camp. You might want to get back there eventually. And he's just such a useless fuck.
Yeah, well, I do love, because like you said, we have one of the characters die, and his death ends up being the kind of the overwhelming inciting incident. And then, it ends up leading to, and I think this is, again, like, this is not going to be like a shocking opinion, but I think the best scene in the movie, obviously, is where I would say it's like Spartacus adjacent, really, where we have all the prisoners banging on the walls with their canteens and their dinner plates, saying the name of Stevens, who is the guy who obviously he's the one who dies at the hands of the guards. And so we have all of them advocating for him because it is clear that the information has gone out and been disseminated through the barracks that, the guards killed one of the prisoners, and the prisoners don't want to stand for it. Mm-hmm. Now, almost nobody sticks up for what actually happened, but the people that were in the cell do, because they're the ones who know. Everybody else is just kind of getting the message out there. But for me, that scene is immensely impactful and really kind of arresting in the way that it's shot.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. And again, like going around and you get like, it's like a medium close up where you've got people behind our main characters. They're all doing the chanting, and then just seeing the different ways that our four main guys are reacting to the other people's chanting his name and seeing their looks. I mean, Roy Kinnear looks like he's like going out of his fucking mind when he's going, Stevens. I'm just like, you're one of the worst ones. You're the one who basically laughed the loudest when this guy passed away. Like, you could be considered partially to blame for this stuff.
Well, he's the one that gave those initial orders.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say he is partially.
And you see those guys coming in with the fucking fire hoses, and you're just like, these guards are not playing around. Something bad is going to happen. I'm surprised that it doesn't end in a fucking prison riot.
Well, and I think it's also a testament to the level of control that the guards have over most of the populace, probably to the level that they're broken, that there isn't one, because they are so
very much
by everything that happened.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, nobody
singing for him at the end.
Yeah,
like,
nobody says fucking shit when they're like, when they should have their moment of let's riot. It becomes, but we'll go back to our cells. It's okay.
Thank you, Commandant, for giving us, the barest of bare minimum.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
I love that, and because we have Williams, who is the guard that's effectively the one in charge of doing most of the terrible stuff, and then Harry Andrews is just the one kind of reinforcing that it's a good thing. I do love that a lot of why Williams does what he does is because of him trying to get a promotion. Right. So it's like the lack of humanity that you are kind of projecting is because of your wanting to get ahead and exist within the system. And, what you want is, to get ahead in the world. So you're just going to completely dehumanize your fellow man. Mm-hmm. And it's like, to what end is that really a good idea?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of working a 9-to-5 job where you're just like, this is all just pretend, why are we playing these roles here? It's like, what, you just get along to get along. Like, why do you feel like this? I mean, why do you feel like these jobs are that important? We're not curing cancer. We're not discovering alien life. We're not finding new cures for autism or anything. We're just pushing around pixels on pages and stuff. And I'm sure that most of the people that are listening to this, like, look at your job. Is it really that important? And you look at this and it's just like so much of this is just pomp and circumstance. It's guys who agree we are all in this fighting unit and we just all have to do whatever these people tell us. These guards, these officers, the whole system's out of order,
It's not you that's out of order. It's the system.
It's the system's out of order. And I think that's a lot of what, I don't know every film that Sidney Lumet directed, but I know the ones that I connect with a lot are the ones where he's, questioning that type of authority. Like, just to see some of the stuff where you're just like, really? He's, okay. I didn't realize, Chris, that we are going to be covering multiple Lumets. I didn't realize that he did the Anderson tapes and The Offense. So that's kind of funny. Like, 3 out of 4, 3 out of 5 movies we're talking about this month are all Sidney Lumet films with Connery. I guess they got along pretty well.
Yeah, it would seem rather well if there's 3 more.
Yeah.
It's too bad you didn't pick Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Well, I felt that Connery just got too much on his high horse after doing that one. And he would throw that around all the time and be like, oh, you want to tell me how to act? I was in Darby O'Gill and the Little People. How about you suck on my left one?
That's where he got off on his high horse, was Darby.
Oh, yeah,
Little People.
Exactly. That just made a monster out of that guy.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that little men getting power is exactly, it yields exactly what one would expect. And I love that is the point of this movie. And I love that we get Connery playing against type as not the one in charge, not the one in power. And, I wanted to ask you about the end of the movie. Like, the end of the movie is just...
Oh God!
Woof, man! Like, it's
even though this is a
downer, right? It's not a down. It is a downer, but it's not a downer. Like, they get what they deserve in the end, but to what end, right? At what cost?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because the system's not going to change. They're giving up the whole thing of changing the system by taking the law into their own hands. But at the same time, I'm just like, would anybody have gotten sent up for this? Would anybody be court-martialed for this? I would hope so, but the way that things work, I don't think so. I think it's what you're talking about earlier as far as the bad guys keep getting away with it. I mean, we're living in a society of Rollo Tomassis right now. They're always getting away with stuff, and you're just like, how is that? Like, you might as well just do these crimes on TV in broad daylight in front of everybody. You could walk up and kill somebody on Fifth Avenue and you would get away with it. And that's the world we're living in. And that's the world that this is showing us as well. I mean, I'm surprised that this is a 65 film because this feels like a 70s film, just with the cynicism of the end of this movie.
And that final shot is so cynical. It's just, to have Sean Connery make it all the way to the final frames of the movie and be able to, I would say, stay on his high horse, as it were. And all the way through the end of the movie, he's on his high horse. And then these other two guys muck it up, as it were. I find it very interesting because he is able to stay relatively unscathed in terms of his morals throughout the entire film. Sean Connery does, which shows, like, even to the point where his foot is broken and they are ignoring what he is saying, like, even then he doesn't break. He is morally righteous and good throughout the entire film, even in the waning moments where Williams is more than likely going to kill him, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
Which is why Williams ends up dying. I'm assuming they kill him.
That's what I think too. I think it's mob justice at the end. Yeah.
Right. So I'm curious, and I think you've already kind of answered this a little bit. It's justified, right?
Oh, for me, yes, 100%.
Same. Like, the system was never going to change. And I'm not saying that this kind of thing is always justified, but in this specific scenario where it is clear that, like, the inmates are not running the asylum, the monsters are running the asylum, and somehow the inmates look better than the monsters, there will never be any sort of justice, as it were, because those who can meter out real justice either cannot, are unable to, or just don't care enough. And so the people that are in those positions are metering out their own version of brutal, like, military, just kind of like unjustifiably transgressive violence towards other members of the military. Like, that's the other thing that's very ironic, right? Is these are all military.
Right.
And the men that are there who have been put there to be in charge of these people, because they too are also terrible people. They can't see that, but the men who are there can. And that's the ironic part.
Right. Yeah, like you said, or like the movie said, it's the screws are doing the time just like these guys are.
Right. And they just don't understand that.
Mm-hmm. What's the whole thing? There's a thing Harry Andrews says about, was it when Connery asked for a transfer to Egypt? Is that when the fighting was getting heavier in England? I think it almost sounds like he's trying to say that Connery's character is a coward, which I think is absolutely diametrically opposed to the truth.
Right. I mean, it takes a lot to do what Connery does in this movie. I think Connery is anything but a coward.
Oh, God, yeah. Man. And there are moments, where you see he's quiet in a lot of this movie. But when he loses it, yes. Connery's very, he's kind of just like, okay, this is what we're going to do, pretty plain, when it comes to this stuff. But when he loses his shit against Harry Andrews, like hour and a half into the movie and just is going off on him, it's one of the best performances. I mean, it's right up there with the end of him, with him screaming, you'll muck it up. But like just these guys going back and forth, it's so good, to the point where that noise I was talking about with all those guys drilling, they all fucking stop. There's not a, you could hear pin drop. There's no noise. And all those drills are gone at that moment.
No, and I was gonna say, like to your point, like that scene with Connery where he finally loses it's so good. I don't understand why Connery, and again, like not to use like the Oscars as any sort of indication for anything, but he didn't even get nominated for this movie.
No,
which is pretty crazy.
This movie didn't get that many good reviews. People didn't like this.
No, it sure did. Yeah. And as the scene is playing in the background, Connery does laugh in the scene where Stevens dies. There are shots of him on the
okay.
So there is that moment of like, because I misremembered it as well. Like it wouldn't track with the character, but right. I would say in the defense of the character, like you do see that moment where they're all throwing dirt at one another on the hill, which is objectively not a fun thing to be doing. But I think taking solace in those small moments, I think is maybe what the film's trying to get across. And it obviously just goes way too far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, looking at Variety's review, harsh, sadistic, and brutal entertainment, superbly acted by an all-male cast and made without any concession to officialdom. Sidney Lumet's forceful and authoritative direction gives added power to the production. I mean, yeah, the critics liked it, but apparently just the audiences didn't really go for it, because it got a ton of BAFTA awards or nominations. But yeah, just apparently didn't hit well with the public. And I guess I can see why, just because it's unpleasant to think about, and especially unpleasant when you're thinking about, like you said, these are soldiers torturing soldiers. It's not like these are, what we're going to see in the 80s, where it's like, oh, let's live out our Vietnam fantasies, and let's have Rambo go in and rescue all these POWs from these brutal, Vietnamese guards. Like there's no othering here of these guards. These guards are of the same type as the prisoners, other than Ossie Davis, who gets that singled out treatment. But yeah, it's like, okay, that's why they're looking for anything, because these are just white guys with other white guys for the most part, soldiers with soldiers. So they're going to look for whatever those differences are, just like, our the Army has to have like every person in Full Metal Jacket. He's always just like, okay, your nickname is this and your nickname is that. And he's always going to try to find those weaknesses and start to, pick on those people. I mean, don't forget Sergeant Snow or Private Snowball. As soon as he sees one black guy, he's just like, okay, yeah, your name's Private Snowball. And he always has to, like, whatever those weaknesses are. I'm surprised that there isn't even more brutality when it comes to these assholes that are running this camp.
Well, and that's the other thing I was going to say. Like, I actually appreciate that the film shows some restraint, because I don't really need the film to push the level of violence or kind of brutality any more than it already does, because the oppressive heat and where they are does a good enough job of adding to it without them needing to have people being beaten to death and bludgeoned and, bloodied and, gored. Like, I don't need to see any of that, because like the setting that they're in adds enough of that without it. It's, it's that passive level of being fucked up that doesn't need to add to it. Like there's no adding necessary.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you really feel just how this atmosphere is, like I said, with all that sweat and everything. And then to find out that they shot this, what was it? That was 114 degrees. It was a lot of days that they were shooting this thing. They had to truck in all this water for this stuff because the people were passing out all over the place. I mean, the making of this movie sounds torturous itself.
Right. Well, that's the thing. You can't fake this environment. You either are there or you're not. So it's clear that they were there, right? Like that is clear that they were there. And it looks it, and I think the film benefits from actually shooting on a location like this one, because
Oh,
everything about it just works really well.
in some of these shots, I mean, right at the beginning when we're, like showing the guys who are leaving the camp, and there's a shot, I don't know. I mean, obviously it could have been a drone shot at that time. I don't think it's a crane, and I don't know if it's a helicopter, but like the camera moves outside of the camp for a little bit from a high place. I'm just like, okay, in 2026, that would be a drone shot. I don't know how you did that, but it was really good to set this place in a particular area and just show how desolate things are.
Yeah. I mean, it's sweaty, it's dirty, it's gross. And it adds such a unique quality and feel to the movie that is unreplicatable if you're just not there. And I think it adds to, like the helplessness of the characters is just further personified by having them be in such a, inhospitable place. Like, what do you do if you escape? Nothing. Like, you can't even get away if you get away. No, you can't.
It is 20 miles of desert in all directions.
Right. You'll probably drink this oil before you decide to kill yourself.
Okay, you went there. I was doing Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I was doing a Bond adjacency.
Yes, no, I like that. I like it.
I really like this movie. This is a really strong start to the month, Mike.
Yeah. I'm really glad to be doing this with you because, although I take it back, I have seen the Anderson tapes. I have seen In the Name of the Rose. It's been decades probably for both of them, but some of these other ones, like The Offense, I've never seen in my life. So another Lumet, another Connery. Bring it on, man. I'm ready.
Well, on that note, let's take a break and we'll play a preview for the next Kulturecast of Mike White May.
Hi, I'm Susan.
And I'm Sharon. And we're the hosts of 80s TV Ladies.
Check us out wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
And please like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at 80s TV Ladies.
You can find interviews and exclusive behind-the-scenes content on all of your favorite 80s TV ladies.
80s TV Ladies is the place to go. Please join us.
Hi, this is HP from Noise Junkies.
And this is Father Malone from Dark Destinations.
Please join us as we examine one of the greatest sitcoms in television history, Taxi, on Night Mr. Walters, a Taxi podcast.
Good night, Mr. Walters.
Good evening, and welcome to Night Gallery.
Thank you, Rod. And I want to welcome everyone to Midnight Viewing, where once a month we talk all about your follow-up to The Twilight Zone, Rod Serling's Night Gallery.
They say it's Rod Serling's Night Gallery, and it isn't really Rod Serling's Night Gallery, it's somebody else's.
Oh, we know. We talk about it a lot. Your curators at Midnight Viewing are the projection booth's Mike White.
What can happen to human beings when trust is wiped out by suspicion?
And Kulturecast's Chris Stachiw.
Small boy encased in a crystal ball.
And I'm Father Malone.
The kind of thing that usually infests nightmares.
Join us monthly at Midnight Viewing, the Night Gallery podcast at weirdingwaymedia.com.
Doesn't remotely belong to me. I have no proprietary interest in that at all.
Unidentified male, Caucasian. House Internal Security Committee surveillance, AD 271T41.
Internal Revenue Service surveillance, Pat Angelo. Case 642DZ713.
Someone is listening. Someone is watching. enemy surveillance. July 16th, 4:45 p.m.
What sort of people live here?
Oh, we have a variety. There's a fag decorator upstairs and a doctor downstairs, although they say he's an abortionist. They're all loaded.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna back up a moving van and I'm gonna steal the guts out of the whole place.
I need you to bridge some burglar alarms, open doors, cut some telephone circuits. I got a job laid out. Need a good driver with a cool head.
I want schedules of services. I want hours and names of maids, storemen, janitor, the works.
Come to decorate your halls.
And not a moment too soon.
What do you think? I think it stinks. What are we screwing around with stuff like this? Even if he scores, it's less than 1 week's take in our worst horse room.
Someone is listening. Someone is watching.
This guy's moving a muscle, you know. He's got every move laid out. It's like a military operation. You okayed the deal. We give you the money for the finance, we want 60-40.
Everyone knows it's an improbable crime. Yet Duke Anderson may pull off the impossible.
Yes? Oh, what the hell is this? Mrs. Hathaway! Oh, for God's sake, shut up. It's a robbery!
The bestseller that bugged the world of crime unreels its power on the screen.
So that's right. On the next Kulturecast of Mike White May, we're going to be talking about the Anderson tapes, which Mike just kind of mentioned offhand. So it'll be another Connery movie, which, so far, so good.
One down. We'll see where we go from here.
Yeah, like you said, another Sidney Lumet or Lumet. Excuse me, the one person who corrected Mike the one time.
Yeah.
I'll give Mike like PTSD because of it.
I mean, it should be pronounced Lumet. Come on.
Right. I mean,
it looks like Lumet. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like Lumet, sounds like Lumet, spelled like Lumet. It should be Lumet, but it's Lumet.
Yeah.
But yeah, another Connery, another Lumet. So it's interesting. It's almost like a Connery Lumet month. Almost. Not all the way, but almost.
No. Close.
Close. So yeah, until then, Mike, where can people find you and the things that you work on?
Well, pretty much everything that I do is available at weirdingwaymedia.com, which is maybe where you downloaded this from. And no matter where you downloaded it from, thank you. And thanks for listening to this. And yeah, come on over and check out some of the other shows that we work on. Chris and I are on a bunch of shows, and we've got a whole bunch of friends that aren't on our shows that we really like to talk about. How about you, Chris?
No, like you just said, weirdingwaymedia.com. That's where you can go to find this show and all the other shows. So yeah, head on over there and give it a listen, give it a look. There are some of our podcasts are on YouTube as well, but everything can be found at weirdingwaymedia.com other than Rankin' on Bond, which it's in its waning moments. Speaking of James Bond, we covered the Connery movies years ago at this point, but all of those episodes can be found on our Patreons. Mine is patreon.com/culturecast. Mike's is patreon.com/the projection booth. And those episodes are there and they will always be there if you want to listen to them, us talking about Bond. But yeah, that's the only thing that can't be found at weirdingwaymedia.com. So like, rate, and review this show on iTunes or Spotify, which is where you should be getting it if you're not. And yeah, come on back for the next episode where we talk about the Anderson tapes. And Mike, thank you so much for joining me for this month and programming the films. And, I don't know if they're going to be as good as those Japanese New Wave films, but or those Francis Weber films and their remakes, some of their insufferable remakes. But,
well, the originals were good, right?
The originals were good. I mean, yes, but, then subjecting ourselves to all those English remakes with Martin Short, anytime I see Martin Short now, I'm just like, ugh.
PTSD.
Yeah. But yeah, come on back for the next episode where we talk about the Anderson.